Uh-huh. Phase 1, Ignition. Oh, it's going to be one of those books where you do it in parts. Not my personal favorite. I usually prefer just continuing a storyline, but cutting them into parts I guess works for ease of writing. Anyways, quote time. Emperor Dickhead unveils an ambitious plan for Imperial flight expansion. Translation. Translation. Get more ships, conquer more planets, and force your tyranny. That's the Emperor's ambitious plan, ladies and gentlemen. Calvidian. He's the bit villain for our story. Contributes star power to the new industrial inspection tour. Buzzwords, buzzwords, buzzwords. The leftover unexplored ordnance from Clone Wars remains a concern. In headlines, Imperial Holo News, Course Edition. Hint, Course is the setting of the story. Sound collision. Only a moment earlier, the Star Destroyer had emerged from hyperspace. Now a cargo ship careened straight towards its bridge. Before ultimatum shields could be raised or cannons could be brought to bear, the approaching vessel abruptly veered upward. Race alone, Captain. Race alone, Jello's waifu. Uh, Once again, that's it. Jello's waifu. Yeah, that's an in joke. Don't ask. Grace Sloan watched, incredulous, as the wayward fighter hurled above her bridge's viewport and out of sight, but not out of hearing. A tiny scraping thump single edge clipped the top of the giant ship's hull. The new captain looked back at her first officer. Damage? None, Captain. No surprise, she thought. It was surely worse for the other guy. These yokels act as if they never seen a Star Destroyer before. I'm sure they haven't, Commander Katniss said. They better get used to it. Salone observed a cloud of transports ahead of the ultimatum. Her enormous Imperial-class starships had arrived from hyperspace on the edge of a pointed, safe approach lane, bringing perilously close to what had to be the biggest traffic jam in the Inner Rim. She addressed the dozens of crew members at their stations. Stay alert. The ultimatum's too new to bring back with a scratch finish. Thinking again, she narrowed her eyes. Send a message on the Mining Guild channel. The next morning comes from a kilometer of us, gets a turbo laser haircut. Aye, Captain. Of course, Salone had never been to the system either, having just attained her captaincy in time for Ultimatum's shakedown cruise. Tall, muscular, dark-skinned, and black-haired, everything that Joe loves in the Imperial, Sloane had performed exceptionally from start and ascended swiftly through the ranks. Once again, everything Joe loves in Imperial. Yes, Jello, I'm going to continue making your jokes about you having a thing for Sloane. It's your fault for all the comments you made, all the jokes you made, all the jokes you made about it in the Noon Dawn thread. True, she was only substituting on Ultimatum, whose attendant captain was serving on assignment to the construction committee, but how many others had helmed capital ships at 30? She didn't know. The Imperial Navy had been in existence by that name for less than a decade, since Chancellor Palpatine put down that traitorous Jedi lies and transformed the Republic into the Galactic Empire. Sloane just knew the days ahead would decide whether she got a ship of her own. And she does, apparently. If that new Aftermath book info is correct so far. This system, she had been briefed, was home to something rare, a truly astronomical odd couple. I can't believe that took me so hard to say. I'm just going to continue reading. Gorse, out of the Fort viewport, lived up to his reputation as perhaps the ugliest planet in the galaxy. That's kind of rude. Don't see what you like in her. Don't see what you like in Salone so much, Shallow. Sorry. Tightly locked to its parent star, the steaming mud ball had one side that forever baked. Only the permanent dark side was habitable, home to an enormous industrial city amid a landscape of strip mines. Sloan couldn't imagine living on a world that never saw sunrise, if you call sweating through an endless muggy summer night living. Actually, considering considering that I am currently doing this during summer and it's really fucking hot, sorry about, changing my mind about Sloan. She's currently, I can kind of relate to her logic right there. Go Sloan. Anyways, where was I? Looking off to the right, she saw the real jewel, Cinna, Gorse's soul moon. Bah. Almost large enough to be counted in Imperial record, keeping as a double planet with Gorse. Cinna had a glorious silver shine, as charming as its parent was bleak. From what the description, so basically, in the previous continuity, we had the potato planet Kessel, which was completely stupid in every single possible way. No offense, because a potato planet is just dumb conceptually, no matter what you say about it. And now we have a planet that is basically is baking, which basically bakes half it bakes forever in total heat. Has an entire lives in darkness on the other side, and has this beautiful moon as its orbiting counterpart. I'm sorry, but I may not have read the whole continuity yet, but currently, all continuity when it comes to planet descriptions, I'm digging the new continuity planet stuff so far a little bit better. It just has far more decent imagery, intriguing imagery for me so far. Anyways, back in character. But Stallone wasn't interested in the sights or travails of all the losers on Gorse. And you lost a point once again, Stallone. You're going back and forth, back and forth. I can't tell if you're an asshole imperial or a somewhat decent but misguided imperial. You're kind of going back and forth on that. You started to turn from the window. Make doubly sure that the convoy is respecting our clearance zone. Then inform Count Vane we have forget. How do I do this voice? Forget the old way. Snapped a low baritone voice. Call. This line apparently gets brought back in Star Wars Aftermath. Seems that even though Count Vidian dies in this book, he does actually get his actions do have some effect in the future. The harshly intoned words startled everyone on the bridge, for they all heard them before, just seldom in this matter. It was their famous pastor's catchphrase, quoted on many a business program during the Republic days, and still used to introduce a successful series of management aids now that he moved on to government service. Every Republic's old ways of doing things were being replaced. Forget the old way really was the slogan of the times. Sloane wasn't sure why she was hearing it now, however. Count Vidian, she stated, her eyes searching from doorway to doorway. We were just setting up our safety perimeter. It's standard procedure. Then Trius Vidian appeared in the entryway farthest from Stallone. And I told you to forget the old way, he repeated, although there was no doubting everyone had heard him the first time. I heard you transmit the order for mining traffic to avoid you. It would be more efficient for you to back away from their transit lanes. Stallone straightened. The Imperial Navy does not back away from commercial traffic. Vidian stamped his metal heel on the deck. Spare me, your silly pride. If it weren't for the fluoride this system produced, you only have a shuttle to captain. You are slowing production down. The old way is wrong. Stallone scowled, hating to be talked down to on her own bridge. This needed to be seem like her decision. It's the Empire's Thorlide. Give them a wide berth. Camus, back us a kilometer from convoy lanes, and monitor all traffic. Aye, Captain. Aye is right, Vidian said. Each syllable was crisply pronounced, mechanically modulated, and amplified so all could hear. But Sloan never get over the strangest part, which she noticed when he boarded. The man's mouth never moved. Vidian's words came from a special vocal prosthetic, a computer attached to a speaker embedded in silver plating that ringed in his neck. He had once heard the voice of Darth Vader, the Emperor's principal emissary, while electronically amplified. The Dark Lord's much deeper voice still retained some trace of whatever was inside that black armor. In contrast, Count Vidian had reportedly chosen his artificial voice based on opinion research, in quest to own the most motivational voice in the business sector. Okay, I didn't read this part when I first read it. I kind of just skimmed through the book and so I got all the major general plot points. By comparing Darth Vader to Count Vidian, and basically making him one major contrast. Vader has some humanity left. The whole deeper voice with some natural trace of his old voice. That's a literal metaphor and symbolism for Vader still has humanity left. Vidian currently, the way he's been described is shown to be in some ways worse than Vader in terms of humanity, because he literally is just completely about efficiency. That's what's different between that's the different. Vidian and Vader fall have this same role as the inhuman servant of the empire, but the difference is Vidian is, while not as powerful or as calculating as Vader, is far more efficient and far more inhuman. Vader has a chance for redemption when he finds out what Vader at least has some form of a chance for redemption, and he gets it in the movies. Vidian, by the way he acts, will never get redemption because he doesn't want it. He just cares about efficiency, and being a monster is efficient. Anyways, back to the story. And since he had boarded her ship with his aides a week earlier, Vidian had shown no qualms about speaking loudly as he felt necessary. About ultimatum, her crew, and her. Vidian strode mechanically onto the bridge. It was the only way to describe it. He was as human as she was, but much of his body had been replaced. His arms and legs were armor-plated rather than skin-flesh prosthetics. Everyone knew because he made little effort to hide them. His regal burgundy tunic and knee-length black kilt. Kilt? What is he, Scottish? He's wearing a... I can read that. The villain of this book is wearing a kilt. I just lost any sense. I guess he does still have a lot of mess up because of what he symbolizes compared to Vader, but he's wearing a kilt. Anyways, we're his only nods to normal attire for a 50-ish Lord of Industry. But it was Vidian's face that attracted the most awkward notice. His flesh lost the same malady that once consumed his limbs and vocal cords. Vidian covered his features with synth skin coating, and then there was his eyes, artificial constructs. Glowing yellow irises sitting in seas of red. If I didn't know any better, I'd say he was he was one of the emperor's. He would be one of it. He would be the emperor making a secret Sith or something. Secret Sith to replace Vader or something like that. But I know better. He just does that to fuck people over, fuck around with people, freak them out. The eyes appeared meant for some other species besides humans. Vidian had chosen them solely for what they could do. She could tell that as she walked, glancing from outside for convoy to convoy, ship to ship, mentally analyzing the whole picture. He's like Sherlock, but he's a freaking evil son of a bitch. So he's like Moriarty, except this joke's got confused. I was making a joke about an analyzation. He's like me! Ha ha ha! We've already met some of the locals, she said. You probably heard the bump. The people here are disorganized. It's why I'm here. He turned and walked along the line of terminal operators until he arrived at the tactical station, depicting all the ships in the area. He pushed past Colley, the human ensign, and tapped a command key. Then Vinny stepped back from the console and froze, seemingly to stare blankly into space. My lord, Colley asked, unnerved. I have fed the output from your screen to my optical implants, Vidian said. You may return to your work while I read. The tactical officer did so, no doubt relieved, Sloan thought, not have the cyborg hanging over his shoulder, like any sane person. Vidian's ways were strange to be sure, but effective, and that's why he was on his ship. The one-time industrialist was now the Emperor's favorite efficiency expert. Of course, his factories produced refined thorlite, a rare strategic substance needed in massive quantities for variety of imperial projects. But its raw material these days came from Sidna, its moon, hence the traffic jam of cargo ships crisscrossing the void between two globes. The Emperor had dispatched Vidian to improve production, a job for which he was uniquely qualified, because he's fucking obsessed with efficiency, and a complete monster. That was my... What? I'm not... This is my review. I'm allowed to have my own little pieces of comments on the situation. Vidian was known for squeezing the very last erg of energy, the very last kilogram of raw material, the very last unit of factory production from one world after another. The last whore in the brothel. Last one. I don't know. I have no idea where that joke came from. Just popped into my head. I was trying to make a joke, failed miserably, as usual. He He was not in the Emperor's close circle of advisors. Not yet. But it was clear to Salone that he soon would be, provided there was no relapse of whatever ailment it was that had brought him low years earlier. Vidian's billions had brought him extra life. He seemed determined that neither he nor anyone else waste a moment of it. Since he boarded, she hadn't had a conversation with him where he hadn't interrupted at least a dozen times. You know, once again, Sloane's starting to become more sympathetic again because Vidian's just far more dickish than anyone else on the ship. So whether Sloane is personality-wise isn't my type, I can still sympathize with her because Vidian's a total dick so far. We've we've alerted the local mining guild to your arrival count. The Thorlai production are already coming in, Vidian said, and with that he marched to another data terminal in the aft section of the bridge. Commander Chalmers joined her far forward, many meters away from the count. In his late 40s, Chalmers had been leapfrogged in rank by several younger officers. Men love gossip too much. You know, Chalmers said quietly, I heard he bought the title. Are you surprised? Everything else about him is artificial, Sloane whispered. Ship's doctors think some of his parts were voluntarily. You're wasting time wondering, Vidian said, not looking up from where he was studying. Sloane's dark eyes widened. I'm sorry, my lord. Forget the formality and the apology. There's little point for either. But it's well for your crew to know that someone is always listening, and may have better ears than yours. Even if they had to buy them in a store, Sloane thought. The ragged flesh lobes that had once been Vidi's ears held special hearing aids. They could obviously hear her words and more. She approached him. This is exactly what I expected, Vidian said, staring at whatever unseen thing was before his eyes. I told the Emperor it would be worth sending me here. Another number of unproducing world and manufactured items crucial to the security of the Empire have been removed from the local government's jurisdiction and placed under Vidian's authority. Gorse was the latest. Messy work might have been good enough for the Republic, but the Empire's order from chaos. What we do here, and in thousands of systems just like this one, brings us closer to our ultimate goal. Sloane thought for a moment. Perfection. Whatever the Emperor wants. Sloane nodded. A tiny squawk came from Vidian's next speaker, an unnerving sound she learned to interpret as equivalent of an angry sigh. There's a laggard holding up the moonward convoy, he said, staring into nothingness. Looking at a tactician's screen, Sloane saw that it was the cargo vessel that bumped them earlier. She ordered the ultimatum to face it. A shower of sparks flew from the fighter's underside. Other vessels hung back, fearful it might explode. Hail the fighter, she said. A quavering, non-human voice was piped onto the bridge. This is Sidna dreaming. Sorry about that scrape earlier. We weren't expecting. Sloane cut to the point. What's your payload? Nothing yet. We are heading to pick up a load of forlite on the moon for refinement at the Kalad Chem Works down on Gorse. Can you haul in your condition? We need to get to the repair shop to know. I'm not sure how bad it is. Could be a couple of months. Vidian spoke up. Captain, target that vessel and fire. It was almost idly stated, to the extent that Vidian's notation were ever conveyed with much genuine emotion. Directed nonetheless startled Shamas. Standing before the gunnery crew, and he turned to the captain for guidance. The fighter pilot, having heard the new voice, sounded no less surprised. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Did you just... Sloane looked for an instant at Vidian, and at first officer. Fire. The fighter captain sounded stunned. What? You can't be. This time, Ultimate's turbo lasers provided interruption. Orange energy ripped through space, turning Cinna dreaming into a confusion of fire and flak. Sloane watched as the other ships of the convoy quickly rerouted. Her gunners had done their jobs, targeting ship in a way that resulted in minimal hazard for the nearby ships. All fighters were moving faster. You understand, Vidian said, turning toward her. Replacement time for one fighter and crew in this sector is 3 weeks, Sloane said, which is less than 2 months. See, I read your reports too. This was the way to handle this assignment, she realized. So what if Vidian was strange? Figuring out what the Emperor and those who spoke for him wanted and providing it was the path to success. Obeying his directives only wasted time and made her look bad. It was a secret of advancement in the service. Always be on the side of what is going to happen anyway. Sloane clasped her arms behind her back. We will see that the convoys make double time and challenge any ship that refuses. It isn't just transit, Vivian said. There are problems on the ground, too, on planet and moon. Surveillance speaks of unruly labor, of safety and environmental protests. And there's always the unexpected. Sloane clasped her arms behind her back. Ultimatum stands at your service, my lord. This system will do what the Emperor requires of it. So it will, Vivian said, his eyes glowing blood red. So it will. Harris and Dula watched from afar as the scattered remains of the fighter burned silently in space. No recovery vehicles were in sight. As unlikely a prospect as survivors were, no one looked for any. There were only the shipping convoys quickly rerouting around the wreckage, obeying the master's whip. This was mercy in time of the Empire, she thought. Imperials had none. Now, to all appearances, their lack of care was infecting the people. Green-skinned Twilight and their stealth-rigged starship didn't believe that was true. People were basically decent, and one day they would rise up against their unjust government. But it wouldn't happen now, and it's certainly not here. It was too soon, and of course was barely awake politically. This wasn't a recruitment trip, no. These days we're seeing what the Empire could do. A project that suited the ever-curious hero perfectly. And Count Vidian, the Emperor's miracle man, practically begged investigation. In the previous weeks, the Imperial fixer had cut a swath through the sector, improving efficiency. On 3 previous world, like-minded acquaintances of Hera on the holonet had reported misery levels skyrocketing under Vidian's electronic eye. Then her associates had simply vanished. That piqued Hera's interest, and learning of the Count's visit to the Gorse system brought her the rest of the way. She had another contact on Gorse, one who promised her much information on the regime. She wanted information, but she first wanted to check out Vidian, and the same notorious archaic mining trade offered a variety of chances to get close. Industrial confusion, the perfect goal for Vidian, would provide excellent cover to study his methods. Emperor Palpatine had too many minions with great power and influence. It was worth finding out whether Count Vidian had real magic before he rose any higher. It was time to move. She picked out an identifying transponder signal of ship in the convoy. One button push later, her ship was that vessel, as far as anyone trying to watch traffic was concerned. With practice ease, she lead a freighter into the chaotic flood of cargo ships heading to the moon. None of these guys can fly with her flip, she thought. It was just as well it wasn't a recruiting trip. She probably wouldn't have found anyone worth her time. End of chapter 1. Uh, and I'm going to do an analysis of chapter 1 in a second. Give me a sec. Anyways, see you in a sec for the analysis.